3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? We're back with another episode of Carlene plus Jaime. And for the last few episodes, we've been talking about my experience with leaving pastoral ministry. Now we're going to get Carlene's perspective and her feelings about leaving pastoral ministry. But before we jump right into it, we want to let you know that if you've been enjoying our content, for you to like, subscribe, share, comment. Appreciate all of you that have been leaving comments on the last 3 episodes that we did. The feedback has been amazing, and we truly, truly do appreciate it. So, Carlene, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty all right. It's been a great week so far, and I think I'm just enjoying the weather. Shout out to the weather.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the weather and just kind of, just grateful for life, health, and strength and all the things. So pretty good week. How about you? How are you doing? How was your week?
I think my week's been good. I've been I just been like really, I think, excited about the traction that we've been getting and just this whole new look, this whole new vibe. Like everything's new. We're in a new state. It felt good to be able to walk in the freedom of being able to express a lot of why I left ministry. So yeah, week's been good. The weather, yes, shout out to the South. South be giving that good weather earlier. I'm afraid about the summer. I'm not anticipating or looking forward to the 100 triple digit weather.
Not in Georgia.
I think Georgia gets triple digit weather.
Not like Texas. I feel like Texas is much hotter. Georgia, I think, don't get the triple digits.
All right, so we'll make a bet. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see what it's gonna be. All right.
Christian's betting now. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna gamble.
You left ministry in that pastoral ministry, and now you straight betting. But
there
it's
you
all
go.
right.
I got to make money somehow.
Okay.
There we go. Anyway, all right. So thank you for amusing me. But let's get right into it. You ready?
I was born ready.
Okay, like fish and spaghetti. So, what should I start with first? All right, I'm gonna ask you this. What was your initial reaction when I shared the news with you that I was resigning from pastoral ministry?
I think the initial feeling that I had was happiness. I was happy for you. This is something that you have been going back and forth with for years. And so now at this point in time to see that this is what it is that you are deciding to do, I was in full on support and completely happy for you, because I can't imagine living in what you were living with, the battle that you would have every meeting, every worship service, every interaction was just something that was truly pulling on my heartstrings as your wife, just kind of being witnessed. I had a front row seat. Witnessing you in straight depression.
Sorry, go ahead, keep going.
And so when you told me that you were officially going to hand in your resignation, I was completely happy for you. Now, if we backtrack a little bit, you were kind of saying it for a while.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you, because like I've been saying it for a while. So like this time when you knew for sure like it was going to happen. So walk me back on the times when I said it before and didn't do it versus this time now?
So if I'm being honest, I was one of those that saw your potential and saw when you thrived and saw when you were like in your bag, right? And so I was one of those in the very early stages of you expressing that you're feeling like you need to just walk away. You say you just need to take a pause and then come back to see if you'll miss it. But I was one of the ones, if I'm being truthful, to say, yes, I think you do whatever it is that you feel that's going to make you happy. But I felt as though maybe I was conditioned to only seeing you in ministry, like ministering in this way, in this specific way. And so I think at first I was one of the ones that were just like, are you sure? Like, you're amazing. Like, you are doing the doggone thing. Like, look at and see the fruits of your labor. Almost trying to convince you not to leave, even though your heart, your body language was completely pointing in the direction of you not wanting to walk away. And so for some time now, like, I used to feel guilty almost, well, yeah. Let's just say I used to feel guilty because it was just like one of those things of, here I am encouraging you to do the thing that is killing you. Not only physically, spiritually, emotionally, it's literally killing you and stifling you. And so before, I used to be very, very guilty. I used to feel very guilty because of that.
Yeah. So was it because you couldn't see me in a different light, or that was like what you've only seen me, well, was it because you've only seen me in that role? Was it difficult for you to see me in any other way, or like, was that part of it, or?
Because I think it's the only role or only way that I have seen you. Because let's be honest, like, when I met you, you were a theology major in college, right? And so we have been together walking this pastoral journey from since you were in undergrad at AUC. And even then, if I'm to be honest, you used to express feelings of, man, you don't know, you're not sure. Like, you were kind of like doing this back and forth thing. And so I've walked with you in those ebbs and flows of ministry. And I thought when you came to me before, when you were pastoring, I don't remember which church, I was just like, this is another ebb.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is another, let me not pull you, but let me encourage you the way that I have in the past to say, come on, Jaime, like, yo, like, this is what I feel like this is what the Lord truly has called you to, because look at your track record. Look how God has blessed you in times past. So to now give up because of whatever, I kind of felt like, come on, let's get it together. Let me kind of pull you out of that funk you had, but not realizing that it was deep rooted.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. That's good. Because I would always like, I think for me, I would always wonder, I know you'd always support me, but I'd always wonder why you would keep pushing me to keep on going. But now when I understand, it's like, that's all you've, professionally, that's the only way that you've seen me. And so it'd probably be hard to immediately like reconcile. What are you gonna do? Like, not what are you gonna do, but who's this new person that I'm with? So man, that's good, because I think that was one of the questions that I had for you written down here. And so like the other question I wanted to ask you was, how are you personally processing this transition out of ministry life? Because it's not just, I feel that it's not just me that has walked away from pastoral ministry. Let's just make that clear. But I also feel you, in a way, have walked away from it as well, if that makes any sense.
Yes. And so hence the title of this episode is He Left, Did She Leave as well? And honestly, I think I left before you did.
Ooh. Okay. All right, break that down.
I left before you did. I believe I left the day we were in the mall and you got a message. You had just left a meeting. We were in the mall and your doctor called you and told you that you need to go to the hospital as soon as possible because we believe that you have multiple sclerosis. And that moment, of course, going through the motions of what does this mean? You know, is this terminal? Is this like what does the future look like? Just kind of going through all the things when someone has been diagnosed with something. In that moment, after the doctor explained that this is possible, that this episode was induced by stress, and I knew that the stress that you were under, I honestly was like, heck no. I'm not going to be okay with a system that is literally causing you to be so stressed that it caused an episode, a multiple sclerosis episode. I'm not saying that the church necessarily, but I feel like the stress that you were under caused it. And so I walked away knowing that I am no longer going to be okay with you walking around the way you're walking around, looking the way that you're looking, even the interactions that you and I had during that season and even with our girls and stuff like that. I was like, nah, chill.
Wow.
The buck stops here.
So that's new to me. I didn't know that. Man, I didn't know that. So when I was diagnosed with MS, and that year was 2020, that was like the end. I think it was the end of 2020 because the pandemic was 2021, right?
No, the pandemic happened in 2020.
So it was the end of 2019. All right. So I don't even know why we didn't really need the year, but so now, was there a sense of guilt on you? Because based on your previous statement, right, when you were like, you kept on egging me to keep on going, you kept on saying like, tighten up your belt and get back in the saddle. When I was diagnosed with MS, was there any feelings of guilt, like saying like, man, the stress that he's under, me pushing him to keep on doing ministry, and with all the other stuff that I was doing, because we're not trying to say that it was the church that gave me MS, but it was a lot of the stress from pastoring. Did you feel any guilt? Like, did you think about like, I kind of feel like this is my fault, or not my fault, but like I contributed to his diagnosis?
No, not really. In that moment, no. In hindsight, for sure. I told you before, like I felt guilty of encouraging you to do something that was literally stifling you and making you feel and look not good. And so I think as I processed it, I think I definitely was very much, I very much was processing, what if I was just like, all right, and there were moments where I would just be like, so just leave. I think it came to a head even before you got diagnosed, before that episode, I was like, yo, quit. Like quit now, do it now. I was just like, you know what? I said, at the time I think I was working, I transitioned out of the private school sector to the public school. And so I was just like, yo, yeah, it's going to be rough, but walk away. Cause if this is what if this is what we have to deal with, the girls and I, chill, we good. Like it's not that serious. In terms of if financially if that's the biggest issue, the Lord will make a way somehow.
Yeah. And to your defense, like I kept pump faking because you would tell me like leave, like walk away. But I always felt like the check kept me. And I think also too, I didn't know what else I was gonna do. So yeah, but so this is all revelation to me. I'm learning just as much as you all are learning tonight. So
Yeah, but going back to your question, which was your question.
how are you personally what was it? What feelings? I don't even know. What was my last question? Do you remember? I don't remember. I'm just like,
What?
I don't remember. No, sorry. You know why I don't remember the last question? Because it's not on this paper. The question was, did you feel any sense of guilt? Because
Not the guilt. It was before you asked that question.
it was before I asked that
Yes.
question. Then the question I asked you was, how have you been personally processing this transition out of ministry?
Got it. So going back to it, because I think I took a segue in terms of like, I'm saying that I left pastoral ministry in a sense of no longer wanting to be necessarily a part of, like, I think I slowly began to separate myself because I realized how much I was going through the motions of things, right? Like I was still involved in church and stuff, but I definitely was just at the point, because this was actually like we were going into into the pandemic. And so with the combination of you getting sick, me realizing that you were under such great stress and no longer wanting, pretty much I was in protection mode, like trying to protect you in a sense where I wanted to make sure, like, you're trying to do this, and I'm like, nah, sorry, bro. Like, you need to create those boundaries where you can't make that meeting. If you are not well, it's okay for you to say no.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to not push yourself so much that you end up sick, because guess what? The reality that I realized from this experience with you getting sick is this. When all is said and done, all they would say is, the parishioners, all they could say is, the conference, whomever, would say, man, he was a great man. He worked really hard. He created programs. He was a visionary. He was great. And then the girls and I are left with what?
Right.
And at that point in time, I was no longer willing to sacrifice you for the church. So that's why I left, because I no longer wanted to be okay with you not being okay. And also realizing that people are people. And unfortunately, when you were in the hospital with all the things that you were going through, when you were in the hospital, you didn't have a barrage of phone calls. I didn't have a barrage of text messages. There were just a few people who were there.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, here you're trying to save these people, right? But it's at your expense, because when you are straight in the hospital, there's no one there showing up.
Right.
Not no one there, but
few people.
It's just a few people.
Right.
And so it just did not make sense to me anymore to be okay with sacrificing you, because the girls and we as a pastoral family, like, there's a lot that happens.
Yeah.
And a lot of expectations, a lot of things that are happening, a lot of people, and it's almost, there's just so many things. What happens essentially is, and I made mention of it last week, you're showing up, right? You're showing up for the church members.
Yeah.
Right? Which you should. That's what your job is.
Right.
However, we still have to deal with how you felt prior to going into church.
Right.
We still have to kind of walk through with you in those moments. And when I say we, it's the girls as well, because even though, like, we're not like having conversation outwardly, talking through like, okay, Jaime, how you feeling? You know, whatever, like, we'll have those conversations in our private moments, but I still very much know that they felt or feel what it is that you're feeling, because you're their dad, right? And you're very involved in their lives, right? And so it's never been one of those situations where you're gone and they're like, "Where's daddy?" Like
Right.
we weren't that kind of pastoral family. You prioritized us.
Yeah.
And so I think having them and us being a part of this journey of, of you really struggling, it was not okay to kind of go through that and to be okay with you continuing to be in that.
Yeah. Yeah. You said something about leaving, and it made me think about the fact that when people leave church, it's not primarily over doctrinal issues, but it's a lot about how they felt or what they felt. And to hear you describe, just like all the emotions that you felt during that period, 2019, 2020, like that pandemic year was just a year of just revelation and feelings, and Trump was first term. It was like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So yeah, that's this is some tea for me. I didn't know all this other stuff.
I also want to say that even in those moments of what you just described, that moment, there was a pandemic and all the things, it really made me have time to process all of the things. And I truly believe the pandemic, as unfortunate as it was, with all the people dying and the lack of response from the president and at the time, and all of those things, like that time was rough for a lot of us. But I truly felt that it confirmed why I left, why I no longer, I was okay now with being like, yeah, let's just go ahead and have you separate and not do pastoral ministry in this way.
Yeah, because you were physically there, but mentally you had checked out. And then even still, like during the pandemic, I was the only one going to church, and you were like, stay home with the girls. And we'll get into that, because I think that's a whole nother episode in regard to that. But now that we're talking about like the pandemic and your experience and all this thing with leaving ministry, has your relationship with God also transitioned?
Absolutely.
Okay. Better or for worse?
For the better.
Wow.
For the better.
Wow.
I feel that, again, I think that all, like when the text says all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. I truly believe that time, as unfortunate as it was definitely where I was able to do a lot of deconstructing. I'm still doing a lot of deconstructing of my faith. And it allowed me to truly connect with God without needing anything other than God. Not depending on church, not depending on, coming together. Even though coming together was important, I feel that social interaction is great on the Sabbath. I'm not denying that. But I feel like there is something to being in solitude and truly trying to understand where I stood. Let me put it here, where I stood with God, and just understanding my relationship to him, with him, and realizing it is truly what matters is my relationship to God, not anything or anyone else. Because I know that even in that period of time, there were a lot of loss, not only people dying or whatever, but I also think in our dynamic as a pastoral couple that there was loss. as it relates to me and being a, what is it called?
First lady, pastor's wife.
A pastor's wife. But I feel that there is, because someone doesn't like you, right? You may have some strife with people in the church,
right?
Because they don't agree with whatever it is that you are doing. I feel the brunt of that as well in relationships being lost. Because now I'm almost a, what's that word? Casualty.
Right.
I'm a casualty. So just going through that process and just truly seeing church for what it was, for what it is, I definitely have, I've actually grown in my faith with God, because I think what happened was I no longer I was depending so much on the gathering. I was depending on, even though I was having my, I read my devotion every day and I kind of go through those motions, but there was something about that pandemic that just kind of unearthed and shook everything inside of me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the pandemic forced a lot of us to do things that we may not have thought about doing or thought that we needed to do.
Yeah.
And I think like you said, that isolation, that being with just me and being just with the girls, and also nursing me through the pandemic after I got released from the hospital. I'm sure that, all of that. But when you were saying like how it's kind of, I don't know if I'm reaching here, but like when you said the president of the United States and all that was happening in the country and the lack of response to the Black bodies that were dying. And then it sounds like you said that right after you were talking about the lack of response or the lack of folks that called or showed up when I was in the hospital. It was almost like, these things were just like brewing. All of these things were happening at the same time that, and why maybe some people didn't call or didn't show up, we never know. But it was just like, it was like a swelling, almost like felt like it was something that was brewing, or the glass ceiling was cracking, and that moment was what cracked it completely. So yeah, I never knew that you left before I did. So that's pretty earth shattering to me right now. But I do have this other question for you, right? So I'm trying to be like Barbara Walters here, like the View journalism
Barbara
here,
Walters, okay.
and I'm trying to make it real nice. No, what's the guy that just left?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Nevertheless, I'll be Jerry Seinfeld. Now, just playing. So now that I've walked away from ministry, right? Have you noticed a change in me? And is that dynamic affecting you, affecting the family? Is there anything different that you've started beginning to notice?
Absolutely. I think I'll start first with your demeanor. It looks now like a joy opposed to a chore. Sabbath truly is delightful. Not that every Sabbath was like that, wasn't delightful. It's just that some Sabbaths, depending on whatever it is that you had on your plate, just kind of put you in a funk. And so seeing that, it's just so crazy, because I remember I remember seeing you kind of becoming more and more depressed. I used to be like, it's the Sabbath. Like, it's a happy day. It's not a day of work, it's a Sabbath day. Like, it's supposed to be a day where you're glad and you're happy. A day of rest and gladness. And I used to be so like torn, because I'm just like, it doesn't make sense that it's a Sabbath and you look like that, right? But then you explain it to me. You were like, for you, Carlene, Sabbath looks different because I am working. This is my day to work, essentially, where I am making sure that the programming is right. I'm preaching a sermon. I'm getting up, I'm having meetings. I'm doing all these things on the Sabbath, and it's work. And then I used to actually feel like it was blasphemy because I'm like, the Lord says, do not work on his Sabbath day. Your neighbors, not even the people that are in your gates, like you're not supposed to work. So how could you say that it's work? But once you broke it down to me that way, I was just like, okay, I get it. I totally get it. But Sabbath now is great because it feels more or less like, we're getting up and we're choosing to go to church. Mm-hmm. We're choosing to go because we don't have to go. Yeah. We can choose to do a family day differently. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we're choosing to go to church, and when we do choose to go to church, it's great. I could definitely feel you less tense. I could definitely feel like this laid back, chill kind of vibe that I'm feeling from you lately, recently, or as of since you officially resigned. But it feels good to see you not depressed. Let's just say, let me just put it out there. It feels good to not have you look depressed and sound depressed.
And I'm sure that rubs off on you as well. But what I want to ask you now is, have you, since my resignation, have you been dealing with any grief, any loss in that sense? Like, is there anything that you miss? Is there anything that you're like, or is there any thought of like, maybe he should have thought about this a little bit longer? Or is there any kind of grief or loss, or let me just put it like this. Are there any emotions? What emotions are you working through right now? Like feeling?
I feel like, let me just put it out there. You know that I grieve hard for churches. So let me just put it out there. There are some pastors' wives who don't, and then there's some pastors' wives who do. I don't think that it's talked about. I don't think I've never heard, if I'm being honest, from any pastor's wife sharing how hard it was leaving a church and how much they grieved it. For me, saying goodbye is extremely difficult. I hate saying goodbye. And I think I hate saying goodbye for different reasons. And I know that's definitely rooted in my childhood, my upbringing, and things of that nature. But it takes me a while to grieve the congregation. I think every congregation we've been in, I've grieved it. And like the first congregation that I grieved, man, and I'll put it out there, was Bethany. I grieved Ephesus as well, but I understood that you were in transition at Ephesus, right? Like it was inevitable for your clock was just ticking as it relates to leaving Ephesus. Yeah. However, leaving Bethany we were supposed to be there longer. Yeah. And I believe we only stayed there about 2.5 years or 2 years.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, I say 2 years because 2013 is when we came to Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we left Bethany almost like unfinished, right? Like it wasn't like we didn't see it to completion. I'm not even sure that that's a thing, but I felt like there was just so much more that could have been done that you were really on the trajectory on doing. And I was like so excited and so stoked what was happening there. And after leaving there to move to Texas, I think I grieved Bethany for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years. Yeah. I couldn't watch their I couldn't watch their services. I didn't necessarily want to hear anything about what's happening because I truly was grieving it. Right. I believe I grieved City Temple because we stayed there for 11 years. Like our girls grew up there, right? Like all the things. And so I think I've had time to process through my grief. I've had time to process through before you gave your resignation to kind of disconnect myself from pastoral wife kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm not grieving as I have in the past. I think because there's just some other things that I don't necessarily want to make mention in this here on this in this space, but there's just other things that won't allow me to grieve in that way.
Yeah.
Because I realize that this was better for you to resign.
Yeah.
So I've had my stages of grief, but I feel like I've grieved this transition of you leaving.
Yeah.
I was grieving it when you
got you. You were already making. It's almost like when a loved one is about to pass away.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're preparing yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were already doing the work that you needed to do.
I was already doing the work, and then to your point when you said you asked if I have like, is there anything I miss?
Yeah.
What I do miss is hearing you preach, because you are my favorite preacher.
Horns.
You are my favorite pastor. And so I think that is what I miss most, especially in these times in these very tough times as a African American or a minority going through what we're facing currently and what we're going to face in the future.
Yeah.
And just hearing your voice and hearing your what you feel the Lord has told you to tell the people, to encourage the people. That's what I miss. I miss hearing you preach. So I think that's probably something that I'm still grieving, just being able to hear you speak consistently on a stage. Yeah.
Wow. You're almost about to make me go reapply, come back into
Nah,
the
we're
stuff.
good.
Yeah, but there are other pulpits, right? It doesn't have to be in a church. Like there's always opportunity to speak, and to do that. So, you got me over here cheesing like I'm your favorite pastor
You
and
are.
stuff. That's
You've
what's up.
always been.
Yeah.
You're my number one.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. Oh man, you want something? What you got?
I don't want anything. I'm just being honest.
No. I get it, because like one of the challenges that I've always had is the fact that you don't get to choose your pastor. You don't get to choose what church you want to go to. You, in most cases, don't even get to choose where you want to live. So it's always been following me. So I think it's a blessing to know that you enjoy my ministry. Like you're not like, oh gosh, this guy, he about to say this. And I'm sure there are some situations like that, but it means a lot to know that you enjoy my preaching and my ministry and things of that nature. My other question to you is, what's been the most challenging part of the transition? Has there been a challenging part?
The most challenging part. I think the most challenging part that I'm having right now is just trying to now be regular. And not that I have an issue with being regular.
Yeah.
I think throughout our ministry, pastoral ministry in the Adventist church, I believe that we've always been ourselves.
Yeah.
We were never like pretending to be something that we're not.
Right.
Like highfalutin.
Right.
Where
first
we feel
lady,
like first lady.
Move. Get out the front seat.
And everybody already know I hate that term, first lady.
Right.
I'm not that kind of first lady. I don't know how to be that kind of first lady. I just know how to be me.
Yeah.
And I just happen to be a pastor's wife. And so I think right now is just now walking into this new role of we're just members. We're just people. I think probably the most challenging is transitioning and being patient with that transition, and just kind of like trying to see where we fit. When you walk into a church and you're the pastor, you kind of realize you fit as you are the one that's married to the pastor. I won't say first lady, but I'm the one that's married to the pastor. You're a pastor. You already know your role. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily I never know my role because I don't feel like I have a role to play. I just feel like I'm just Carlene, and whatever the Lord has given me or gifted me to be in the space. And so it's just trying to show up with at the same rate in terms of just being myself, us being ourselves, but still just try to be ourselves in this new light, in this new space.
Right. Which is good because like you've always been, and one of the things I've admired about you is definitely you're not one to want the front or want the attention. And so, unlike some other pastors' wives, and this is no demerit to anybody, everybody has their own personality. I think throughout our ministry, like you've always been hesitant about taking roles, about taking offices, even up and being up front. Like I would always be like, yo, can you sing? Like, I don't think you've ever, well, you sang in the choir at City Temple, but but you said solos ain't your thing. So,
no.
But like
anything. Not that pastor's wife, folks.
Yeah,
and not that pastor's
anything.
I don't play the piano either.
Right. All of that stuff. Yeah, you ain't that. And so I'm wondering if that also helped with the changing the transition, because what's interesting about you is that before, one of the things that really attracted me to you was that you had your own relationship with God and that you were very active in your church. Like, man, let me tell you something. I met Carlene. Carlene was doing skits. She was the AY leader. She preaching. She's doing all of this stuff. We got married, and it's almost like you just decided, like, I'm going to just play the back role and let me be the one that's up front. Not that you were ever thinking that you were going to take my shine or anything like that, but you really took, I really feel like you took I don't want to use the word step back, but it kind of like you just took you took a step back and you just sat back.
For sure.
And you let me lead. And so that's like, there's a lot to unpack with that.
There is a lot.
There's a lot to unpack with that. But I think the part that I want to unpack is the point in regard to with me resigning from ministry and the role that you played as my wife in church. Did it make the transition easier? Did it make it, easier to let go of? Because it wasn't like you were holding on to any department or anything that you were like, man, I don't want to let this go, things like that. So is it safe to say that it made the transition easier?
Quite possibly, because I'm sure if I was still very much active the same way I was when you met me, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that transition is any easier. Yeah. I'm going to assume I generally, there's just something very interesting. I think I saw it yesterday. This woman, she said that when she was growing up, that she did not want to be seen. Right? She didn't want to be seen. She kind of loved the background. And she started realizing that she started being left out of things. And she didn't like that. So she had to redefine how she wanted to be seen. And I feel like that is what I'm going through right now. In that, not that I felt left out per se, but I know what God has gifted me in or what he's gifted me with. And now I want to be seen, not in that necessarily being up front, but I want to show up. in spaces. And so right now I feel like I'm really trying to figure out how it is that I want to be seen and how I want to show up in in a space, because now I get to be intentional about it. But before, I don't think I had time. I don't think I had space to truly process through what that looked like. But now in this season of my life, I just know there is the confidence that God has given to me. I just know that I want to show up more in the gifting of what he has given to me. You know that I have a lot to say. I have a lot to give. There's a lot in me.
Yeah.
And I think I've always been that way. I definitely felt like I pulled back a whole lot for a number of reasons, which we will not share right now. But I think one of the reasons why I definitely pulled back was my idea of, and how pastoral ministry was painted to me was you sit quiet. If you're not playing a piano or you're singing, then what are you doing? You know, maybe a pastor's wife, you know, some of them I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about back in the day, they would tell children's story, but to truly be a vibrant, you know, pastor's wife in that way was not necessarily something that was modeled. And what I mean by modeled was just me looking at the pastor's wives that I've observed from my home church or even other churches, you know what I mean? And so I just felt like I needed to be in that mold. I needed to be in that little box that I would be pulled out or I can come out when I need to. But essentially that was what it was for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, man, there's a lot that I'm taking mental notes.
Okay.
I'm taking mental notes because there's so much more I want to unpack with you. And it's that unpacking the whole, taking a step back, unpacking the whole shepherdess traditional role of the pastor's wife, and you know, pressures that you may have felt with me as a pastor and with you, because you've always marched to your own drumbeat. And I think that's one of the things that I admire so much about you, is that even when you were like super active in church, even when you were doing all the things that you were doing, you were still marching to your own drumbeat. And then when you decided to take a step back, when you got married to me, you were still marching to your own drumbeat, even to your whole entire evolution of who you are. Because man, maybe I could, at the end of this episode, throw up some pictures of when we first met to who you are right now, right? Like it's been a total evolution, but I would love to. And I'm looking forward to the next episode because I have like a ton of questions for you. And I'm going to include those in there because thinking about, I think the spotlight a lot can be on me and me transitioning out of ministry. But I truly believe you transitioned out as well. And to hear you say that you left before me is, I'm sure it's going to be a shocker to a lot of people, and that as surprising as it was to me. But I'm interested in also knowing about this new identity that you're walking in. Like, I love the fact that you said you want to define how people see you. And I think that should always be what all of like, I think we need to like frame that and put that up on our gallery wall. Define how you want people to see you, because that was just super dope. But I'm looking forward to our next episode where we can dig more into who is Carlene Kalasar post ministry, and what is Carlene Kalasar doing in this post ministry, because it's not just me, it's us, and this new walk and this new this new reality that we're in.
Yeah.
So I'm thoroughly, truly excited about that.
I am too. I'm happy to share. And I think that, or I should say, I know, speaking more confidently, sometimes is that little difference between I think versus I know. And so I want to stand in that confidence. But I know that this season that you and I are in is not happenstance. I know that this is somehow, some way, God truly bringing us, working within us, and truly bringing us out for His glory. Because I don't feel that, and I hope that throughout this entire conversation, from the beginning, from the time that you said that you were, you basically announced it to the episodes leading up to even this episode. My prayer, my hope is that we do not sit here and try to take the glory for what God has done, what He's doing, and what He's about to do. Because I truly believe that this is a moment, an opportunity for God to get all the glory. And some people may wonder, how can God glory in what seems to be a walking away of His calling on your life? But the calling on your life is not limited to what everyone else think, or what everyone else has an opinion on.
Right. Absolutely.
It is based on what God has already ordained and what He's already set you apart for. This chapter of your life is right now. It's possible that is on pause, or the door has closed. Whatever it is, we truly believe that God is going to get the glory, that He is already getting the glory, because we see in our day-to-day life how God is getting the glory in this season where we are in full surrender to His will and His way. And whatever it is that He's doing, sometimes it's scary, but we truly believe in this moment, in this season, that this is a moment for God to get the glory.
Yeah. And like you said, it's calling. So I don't see it as called. I think that He's still calling us to other areas and to other spaces so that we can expand, we can grow, challenges, mountains and valleys. And it's not just, it wasn't just a call that was upon my life. It was a call upon your life. And I think right now, I feel that in this season, we're discovering what God is calling us to right now. Not just me, not just you, but what is He calling us? And I would also say our children. Like, what is He calling all of us to right now? And, I think that's a good word for those that are watching too, right? As you're thinking about, transitions, and you're thinking about leaving something to walk into something new, and just kind of like always thinking about and processing, what is God calling you to let go of so that He can give you something better? And, what does it really mean to truly walk on water? So, yeah. So this is good. So this is only part one of, we don't even know how many more episodes, but we'll probably keep it funky with 3. But
I'd say a good solid 2. This one and another would probably be good.
I got 3 pages or about 20 something questions. So I'm gonna do a 3-part series. I'm gonna make up some stuff. Y'all gonna send me some questions. But,
wait a minute. 3, not just focusing on me, just
focusing on thou.
On the
Okay,
KJV.
On thou. On that. Oh, I got to introduce you to this new version I picked up. It's called the Cotton Patch version of the Bible.
Okay.
It's dope.
Okay.
And it was crazy. It's set in Georgia.
Really?
Yeah, it's like
But who translated? Can we see who translated?
Yeah, you can see who translated for sure.
Cool.
But nevertheless, look, we gotta go.
Yes.
This is Jaime.
And this is your girl Carlene.
And we are signing out until we see you again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.
Yes.
And please leave your comments in the comment section. We read all of them, and we try to respond to each one whenever we can. But yes, we do read all the comments. So thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful Sabbath day or whatever you choose to do, but just make it wonderful.
Yes.
As you would say, create the life you don't want to
escape.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.